The question that I'm inquiring today is what is philosopher or who is philosopher? In my opinion, this question is more important than the question of what is philosophy or what philosophy deals with. And the language tries really hard to put every word within a boundary and try to define it. So if you go to the Oxford Dictionary and try to search this word philosopher, you would find that it defines the word as a philosopher is someone who teaches or is learned in philosophy. Um, that means academically teaches or learned in philosophy is a philosopher. There is one other version of the same word, philosopher, the person who keeps thinking about the questions, whether those questions are related to existence, knowledge, ethics, or more or less anything that exists in our society. Now, I don't know what a philosopher is, but I can take a shot at trying to define what being philosopher is like. Being philosopher is like an illness. It's constantly you. It's something you constantly suffer from, and being a philosopher, as I've said, is a suffering about anything. You can keep asking questions about your existence. You can keep asking questions about uh, anything that exists. More, if you can keep asking question about the sun, you can keep asking question about the sky. You can keep asking questioning about. You can keep questioning the water, the color of the water, or the color of the grass, why the plants are green. If you have scientific questions, science can answer those questions. But if you have any question um, about the knowledge, the subject of knowledge, that is discipline of knowledge or the discipline of wisdom or existence, these are more uh, because these questions get a little bit into abstract and absurd. That's why these questions are hard to answer because humanity has tried for thousands of years to answer those questions, and there has been a lot of great endeavors to answer this question, but more or less we don't have complete answers to these questions about the existence or any question that could be related to abstract. The, because we don't have the answer to these questions because of abs, because the questioning, because there is no end to questioning, and the person who keep asking the question and knows that there is no end, you can ask questions um, indefinitely. For example, we say where this world come from, and a, a learned person would say, well, this whole universe came out of Big Bang, and you will say, oh, what was there before Big Bang? And uh, and some, again, a learned astrophysicist can say, well, there was nothing much before. You know, he or she can define a state, uh, but there was nothing much before um, the Big Bang. And so the questioner would ask, so what was before then, and what was before that, and that. So you can keep dealing in this subject, in this activity, and um, indefinitely, and there is no end to it. But that doesn't answer the question, does it? That what is philosopher or who is a philosopher? Well, you can um, take with you can inquire where that word comes from, and well, anybody who's a master of philosophy is a philosopher. Uh, so, what is philosophy, and what does that word mean? Well, philosophy is the word derived from Greek, um, of two. It is composite of two words, philo plus sophia, which means love of wisdom. So, hence, the lover of wisdom is a philosopher. Well, you can say that, but it will it would not satisfy. I don't think it would satisfy much, mm, much more um, than graduate level student of philosophy. But I think, I truly believe that if you keep on, um, you can take one other approach to define what is philosopher, who is a philosopher, which is that philosophy is believed to be, not believed to be, but I think there are strong evidence to strong that sentence and that phrase, which is that philosophy is the mother of all sciences and studies and theories, which is true. And so we can call that any person who deals with question of all sorts is a philosopher. I don't think anybody in this world asks question about everything. Uh, there could be people, and you have to have a lot of knowledge, and you have to have a lot of information in your head to keep thinking about all the things all the time, and that's not how human mind operate. You know, you tend to get stick more on one thing than on two or three or four or numerous things. You can have thoughts about few particular things, but your head cannot keep asking question about the rock, the sun, the water, the existence, the knowledge, the ethics, and all the other discipline that exist throughout the history. Cannot ask the question about everything every time. That's not just possible. So it gives philosopher a broader sense of what philosopher could be. So our answer is in this realm of a person who deals with these questions of of all subjects and theories. Um, a basic understanding to this is science came out of philosophy, and much later to I think 16th or 17th century, it was called natural philosophy. Science was called a natural philosophy, and even the book written on science were called, there there is actually, uh, the name was written natural philosophy in Latin. So, um, our question, the answer to the question revolves and hovers over this realm, which is the mother of all subjects and theories in this. So our answer is there, which means that you can answer who or what is philosopher in probability, which means you can hit, you can hit right, about you can be right about the subject, um, about the definition of philosopher, if that particular person deals with a particular philosophy, right? For example, there is a person who is a master of philosophy and ethics, right? So he's more or less thinking about ethics. Uh, uh, let let's just say whenever he can find time to think about that, or because uh, thinking, as we understand, is not very voluntary to humans. It's more or less involuntary. We more or less cannot control it. Maybe a Buddhist sort of person can, but generally we common folks cannot control our thinking. So a person who deals deals with ethics and is constantly thinking about ethics, but he will be very poor philosopher. if he just keep thinking about one subject only, he would be a very poor philosopher, because there is no such thing as pure discipline. Every discipline is derived from other disciplines, and a discipline or a subject gets richer and prosperous through the knowledge of other subjects. Technology is uh, would be a lumberjack nonsense if there was no mathematics in it. Science would be nonsense if there was no mathematics in it. That it would again make it a philosopher. So, and mathematics, uh, applied mathematics would be and nothing without the logic. So we sciences and the subjects and the theories and the discipline are very rich because of the interdisciplinary approach that are taken by the philosopher of those and the master of those particular subjects, discipline, theories. So I think a philosopher is somebody who asks questions, constantly asks questions, to the extent it can be um, disgusting, and to the extent there is no end, to the extent where we are dealing with abstract. There actually are a couple of instances that I would like to share before um, I remember listening uh, to a story of Acharya Rajneesh, or famously known as Osho, and he asked his mother that how do I know the person that I've been calling my father for 20 years is my real father or my biological father, and that it can shock people. It can it can immediately put people off, right? It can make it is very offensive to ask somebody, and especially to your own mother. How do you ask? How anybody can answer that question? Because you can be completely um, and I think it's why somebody would ask that, but I think the intention of asking this question, or the intention of asking any question, is can be bad. Well, it can look very offensive and it's disgusting to ask such questions, but the there is no intention of hurting anybody. It's not that I want to hurt my own. In his case, that he wanted to hurt his own mother, and why anybody would do that. This is one instance that happened. One other instance that is related to this this instance that I've just mentioned is there was a philosopher, and he used to go on roads, and he said, whenever I see a truck coming, I don't question the existence of truck. I just get out of the way before it hits me. Which is okay, that's one thing, but basically he's saying that I'm not sitting there at that period of time and thinking about the existence of the truck, because if I do that, it will run over me, and and that's why I get out of the way, because I know what question I have to ask and what question I have not to ask. Like if if a child is on average is a better philosopher than than an average adult, because a child constantly asks questions, and a child cannot stop. And if you and if he might not be able to ask or speak every single time about those questions, but he curiously thinks about those questions. And for example, if child asks why the water in the sea or in the river is blue, and you will say, well, because because when the light comes and it come in contact with the water in the sea or the river, the water observes every single other light, and the only light it reflects back is the blue light, and that's why we perceive water as blue. It's not actually blue because um, if you look the water in the glass, it's not blue at all. It's transparent, um, more or less. So I think, but later you learn as, but later a philosopher learns to ask right questions, as I just said. A person walking on a road doesn't question the existence of a truck. He just get out of the way. So because he knows what question he need to ask and what question he can skip. But asking question indefinitely is a trait of a philosopher. It's less of anything um, to do with the definition of it, but it's definitely a characteristic of a philosopher.